of us actually ever thought that, from the words that come to mind or something that we experience on an everyday life, that we can spin a poetry around it? What we feel, what we express, how we spin words is beautifully done by this very lovely person on the podcast today, Jasmine Khurana, an economics lecturer and later an administrator, now dancing to the real soundtrack of her life as a writer and spoken word poet. Her stories and spoken word pieces hover around bridging gaps around genders and generations and have resonated with listeners around the globe. Best known are 6 Yards Are My Cape. I don't know if you've heard it, but you must. It's all over YouTube. And Banter Between Generations. And I insist that we all see this because I would say it's the best piece that I've ever seen between generations. Both have opened their hearts and spoken. And I think that's what this podcast will also talk about a lot in detail about bantering between generations, how we maneuver between roles, and the lady herself. So welcome, Jasmine. There's lots that I have missed out about you, in your introduction, but I'm sure that you can do justice to it because you have so much of accolades. You're a woman of substance. You put poetry into every word and an expression to everything we go through as women as well. So welcome. It's an honor to have you. And I can't wait to know more about you.
Thank you, Arjuna. Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. And that's a too kind an introduction. I have to live up to that, all that you've said about 1 hour we are chatting. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
It's really a pleasure because, I've been seeing your work now, Jasmine, and I sometimes feel that sometimes simple things, when you bind them into beautiful expression, magic comes. And I think that's what you do. You talk a lot about how women feel, how patriarchy takes over, how women don't speak about their emotions, or, we always put ourselves at the last, and how we are so engrossed in our roles that sometimes we even forget being ourselves. When did you really start the journey of putting words around it, or what you do as poetry? When did that start? Were you always doing something similar right from your school days and then gave it more shape now? Or this was from economics, you thought, okay, too many numbers now and too many stats. Let me now get into something else.
Yeah, writing poetry, Arjuna, honestly came very late. But yes, I was attracted to poetry since I was a child. And writing, chronicling, I would say, started very early in childhood. Maybe I saw my mother doing that, all the milestones. She used to write my diary till I was 5 years old. So when I had my son, I also had a diary. So it was basically, for me, writing was always to warm my own closets or to the corners of my heart, for years, for decades, so to say, till my 30s. It was mostly to iron out the creases of my own thoughts when I was getting over a lot of my own paradigms. So it was I'll scribble it in a diary, as I think a lot of us from our generation have. The diary was my closest confidant.
Wow.
Yes, poetry I was exposed to, and maybe I'll talk about that later, how very early I was exposed to and in what ways it has gone into, the ebb and flow of poetry always enamored me. And the whole imagery and metaphors, that it makes you think beyond the obvious. It will not say things. So that was something I was always attracted to. And then in my 40s, maybe I got a breather from a lot of things in life, roles and responsibilities. I say always that I woke up to my story. Wow. When I looked back. I woke up to the stories of millions of women around me, and I felt that we need to tell our stories. We don't need the world to decide how our lives are. So that's how I think I got a breather from the whole Mahakumbh of life. In 30s, we welcome, in 20s, we welcome a lot of people in our lives, by way of relations, by way of professions. And the question that stared me when I turned 40s hit me like a tequila shot, And the question that stared me in my face was, have I managed to save the woman that I was? Wow. Where is that who I was. So from that, I think I took to writing for my own self. My writing until today, Archana, whatever I have written, whether it is out in the open, whether it is still warming my closets, it is first and foremost, it has to talk to me. It has to give me my answers. And when I'm putting it out, I cannot expect a piece to talk to people when I am not convinced. Mostly 99%, all of that is my own stories. The way I have looked at the world, the way I have grown, I have evolved. And I still am a flawed person. I mean, we all are in many ways. We are learning, we are growing in every role and relation that we are in. So that's how it happened. I think one thing led to the other. When I went up on the stage, it started with stand-up comedy. Not a lot of people know. So that's the reason I think humor is also an intrinsic part of a lot of my poetries. That's who I am. That's the way I live my life. So that's about how I started writing poetry. But it came very early. Yeah.
Very beautiful, and it's very thought-provoking to say the least, because what you said about having a narrative of your own story, your story talking to yourself, and also the woman inside you. I mean, what are you doing to preserve that? How beautiful is that? And I want to talk about it in this podcast, of course. And a lot of people ask me, I have podcasts all about women, and somewhere it just builds back to it, and I really don't know, it's not intentional, but there is so much work that women need to do with themselves. But tell me, like, what stops us? You were able to realize, I'm able to realize through my work now, but what stops us?
Arjuna, the thing is, I'm able to realize today because I think I have led many of us have had the privilege of speaking up. We have had, garnered that courage. A lot of women do not get that opportunity also. But still, if despite all the privileges, optically, apparently, my life would look like to somebody, okay, everything came on a platter, maybe it looks like that. But no, there are deep rooted, subtle patriarchies that we have to deal with, subtle shit that keeps coming our way. We absorb it at times. We are so invested in our relations. We are taught not to question things. We grow up. It's a very, we are conditioned like that. So a woman who is questioning is deemed to be a difficult woman. We raise our voice and we are shrill. Our ambitions upset the apple carts of many. They still do. We have the world around us changing, but trust me, it is still a long journey. And the world is changing. The world around us is changing. They're becoming smarter, I would say. They don't say it openly. We don't want our women to work. We don't want you to do this because that doesn't sound cool. But we have subtle ways of sending all that our ways. So I think all my 30s, if I'll say, I started in my 20s, I was a people pleaser. I wanted to be perfect in every role, as a daughter, as a wife, then as a mother, as a daughter-in-law. You have that thing. I want to perfect every relation. But then I realized at one point that doesn't work because people change their ideas of perfection and then you are just chasing a mirage. So, accept we are flawed. And, this is how I want to live my life. You just have to, at one point, you just have to you have to stop living, up to people's expectations. And there is just one conscience now I have to answer. There is a person I look up in the mirror every morning, and I should be able to face her in the eye. I will not do anything wrong, but then I will not let other people's definition define me. So that is a lot of and there are subtle things, when I talk about in my pieces, we are more than mothers, we are more than all of that. There are deep rooted double standards. We have a different way of looking at the lives of men or boys in our families. And there is a different lens with which we look at the lives of women. A man starts his career or a job, the families will huddle around. They will never say, where is the need? Do we say that to men? You are going to inherit a fortune. Where is the need? No. We take pride saying that, okay, our men, I am very proud of the fact that my husband or my brother or my son has now a thinking that he wants to be a self-made. They are self-made people. Yeah. But when a woman starts her this thing, how often have we not heard, where is there a need? In Punjabi families, the lord ki hai is something that has destroyed, the souls of women more than anything else. And that holds true for inheritances. Where is the need? If she's well fed, she's well taken care of. As I said, our ambitions still upset the apple carts of many. So this is all, with men, you get married and there's somebody who will tell you, make memories. This is your time to make a new life. Why do you want to jump into a job? Do we say that to men? You just got married. Why do you want to jump into a job? And things like that. Or when we have children, suddenly there is a whole world that becomes more concerned about your child. And already a woman who has started after a sabbatical, she's wading through a war. It's not easy for us. I started a second time when I started, my son was 2.5 years old. And if he was going to 3 hours to the creche, I could hear, okay, that was like a morning in the family that, okay, 3 hours. Oh, poor thing, he has to go to a creche. World over, daycare systems are the biggest support systems women have. And here we look at it with a different lens. It's these, and I don't want to get into any more detail because it is these deep-rooted things and little things that come our way that will create ripples when we are already wading through wars. In my 40s, I developed that thing of cutting out that noise. Maybe in my 30s, I was getting affected. I made my own choices and I'm very proud of every choice that I made. But I do wish, I don't blame anyone for any choice that I made. All were my own choices. Even if it was to take a sabbatical for 10 years, that was my choice. And I loved every bit of that. But I do wish there was less noise coming my way. It would have made things even easier.
So when you took the sabbatical, did you go through the regular stuff, which I think anybody would go through, saying, I'm not good enough anymore. I don't think I will be able to get back to where I left. I have lost out on my, corporate trajectory or like a job trajectory completely. What am I good for? I've wasted my years. I wish I hadn't. And, you go through a lot for 10 years. How was that journey for you?
I think, Archita, surprisingly, I get to hear that, quite, because I think it is deemed like that women are not very happy. If we have made that choice ourselves, I think we are happy. And that's why I always say a woman who chooses to be a homemaker should be left like that. But then again, women will be asked questions in every phase. In that phase, I used to be asked when my son turned 6 or 7, because motherhood is, considered as, we champion motherhood as a journey of endless sacrifice. But I have taken that call. I don't want my son also to feel guilty at the end of it. My mother left everything, those 10 years. And that, as I say in my piece, Women Will Have It All also, that was not a full stop to my growth. That did not warrant you sending condolences, my way, that, okay, oh God, that's an end to your career. I was thinking it out. You don't need to do that. And as I say in it, that, picture abhi baki thi mere dost. I was figuring out somewhere. I will also say, yes, it was a war. My son was growing up. But then I was also figuring out when I joined, I was heading a school as a headmistress. So first 6 months, I had stepped into somebody's shoes. It was very challenging. 1 year then I got, when I knew it was an onward and upward journey for me. But something in me was telling me, I want to do something beyond this also. Do I want to continue with this whole my life? So had I not taken that sabbatical, I would not have been doing this. Because when I started to rethink, or when I started writing, I had all the time. That's the reason I started writing. And writing led me to this, what I'm doing today. And I think this is the best thing, that this is what I maybe wanted to do all my life, but till some stage, I could not define. So for me, in those years also, it wasn't that I wasn't doing anything for myself. Some years I was painting. A lot of people who know me from that time know I have painted for a long period of time. And that to keep me, there was something or the other I was working upon for myself also. It was not just that, And if it was taking care of my house and child, at that point, I made that choice. That was, I mean, for me, that was fulfilling me is in ways more than one. So, that also, we don't have to look at sabbaticals of women that, oh my God, that's an end. That's an end. No, I mean, reinventing is not easy, but you never know, what she's working on inside. So I look at my sabbatical as, another most beautiful period of my life. And I'm on hindsight, I'm very happy I did that. Yes, when I took that call, there were a little confusions. I might regret it later. Thankfully, I did not have to.
Right. Okay. So, interestingly, I mean, this is different than mostly what we hear. Like you said, women go through a lot when they take a break, and then, to bounce back, it becomes very difficult. And I'm glad that you really held yourself tight and felt good about it. But at the same time, when you started to do work and, coming out with poetry like what you do, which is really talking about midlife crisis, what women go through, patriarchy, generation gaps, etc. Did you face any kind of challenge from people around you where they probably said, "Isko kya ho gaya? ये तो एकदम ठीक थी,
Yes,
ये कहाँ से
there.
आया?" Well, did you face any of that, like, the woman thing? What happened to the, this Achibali Jasmine, sweet little girl that she was?
Yeah, quiet girl, my childhood. I mean, a lot of people, my school days, my like classmates, they say that we at times cannot believe it. This is the same Jasmine, because as a child, I was a very quiet person. I'll come to that. I would love to talk about, like, I mean, how my mother shaped a lot of things in me. And I feel what we are doing today, we owe it to the previous generation of women who cleared the path for us, and the same responsibility somewhere I have for the next generation of women. I need to clear a little more than when I was young. I might have felt at some point, despite my mother being a very fair and forthright woman, I mean, why is she not speaking up that much? She could speak up more, or she could stand up for herself more. When I was at a crossroad in my life where I had to speak up and all, I realized that I could empathize. It doesn't come easy, Archana, for women to speak up, to call out a lot of things. We are so invested in our relations. We love people. We hate mindsets. How do you make that fine balance to hold on to people? Changing mindsets is not easy. Yes. I mean, more so when it's coming from somebody else. If it comes easily and gradually. And I have honestly seen that changing around me. And I also say when people change, we should give them that credit also. So a lot of challenges, yes, at my back. I mean, a lot of people still would be saying that she's outspoken. Now, the fun is that earlier, if somebody would say that, oh, she's angry. Our questioning is, our outbursts are taken as anger, and we feel guilty. Okay, we are overreacting. We are made to feel like that. Today, I say all the trophies that were sent my way. Oversensitive, angry. A rebel. Which I became in some part of my 30s. Because how do I take it out? I think I hold them as trophies. I'm thankful that they came my way. They gave me more courage. And today, my pieces speak. My pieces answer a lot of things to a lot of people who would have sent something across me that they could have avoided. So my work is giving answers in every way. And I see a lot of change. And I'm very happy. It's strangers. When strangers walk up to me, women from all across the globe. I have messages. I've lost count of screenshots that I have a folder full of. My schoolmates sharing from all over the globe that this is a piece that trickled in our WhatsApp. 6 yards on my cape actually goes viral every 6 months, a pirated version of that in WhatsApp groups. Unfortunately for me, I don't have numbers to flaunt because it's a pirated version that gets viral. And I start getting screenshots that, look, again, that piece of yours, a lot will say in a pink sari. is going viral. So, and when women send me that, okay, this is how we want, what we wanted to say, but you have given words, or we have found our story in your story, I think that is the biggest payback I have got in life. Those are my biggest trophies beyond what others came forward to acknowledge or validate. That is the biggest. And that gave me when I did 6 yards on my cape, Archana, I was still figuring out a lot of things. I still had my own answers I was looking at. I look at my journey from 6 yards on my cape to Women Will Have It All, a journey of my getting all my answers. In Women Will Have It All, if you see, I mean, I am like, these are the answers I have got, and this is what we are. So that's a much stronger piece. I always feel that is my strongest piece. Somewhere it did not get viral or something, but I'm okay with it. That's how I have myself evolved with every writing. That's how I have evolved with every, how the world has warmed up to my writings. So the journey is challenging, but it's worth all the challenges. It's
Beautiful.
worth.
So is there a certain theme that you're working on in your writing? Is there a particular motive behind it? Or, I mean, because I see a lot of work on women, but is that what you're focusing on? Is there something else that you also bring in?
Archana, whatever I have written till date has not come by way of any pre-planning. I have never ever, and I'm being very honest, it's never, and that's the reason I can't work on prompts from outside. If somebody tells me only if I agree with that, I have lived that kind of a thing they're wanting me to write about, I will do it. But beyond that, whatever till date I have written, there has been a compelling gush from inside to just put it out. I need that compelling gush. I mean, I need that gush to arouse my pen. And to get in that coitus state of mind where I bleed blue on paper or start pounding at the keys of my keyboard. And that has come like 6 yards on my cape came because that midlife thing lens I was looking at in a very, I mean, I was mulling over it. I was thinking a lot about it. Banter Between Generations came because we had raging hormones. My son's hormones were rushing in, mine were rushing out maybe. And we were constantly at loggerheads with each other. And every piece could not be as pleasant as it comes out to me. I will honestly admit, Banter was a result of a very ferocious, I would call, outburst that we had at home. Because, parenting is also, what is perfect parenting? We don't know. Children, they don't hand over with manuals to us. We are figuring out, we are making mistakes as parents. And he was at that cusp where he was becoming an individual of his own. He had an opinion. And when we are raising children, we want them to grow up like that. But there is a cusp, that whole outburst happens, and there were a lot of slamming of doors that happened on our face, and there was a lot of shouting and all. When everything subsided, we sat down, he said things, we laughed over it. He had a lot to say, which we could relate to. And that's when out of just that a lighter vein, my husband suggested, when so many one-liners you have against each other, put it in a piece and go out and do it to the world. And somewhere that clicked, and I asked my son, and first he said, no, I am not going to do all this. Then somewhere, we thought and till today, I'm told that is the only spoken word piece done between a son and a mother anywhere. I would want somebody to contest that and tell me there is another piece also. But we feel very happy. And more than that, it wasn't aimed like that. Something happened in the house. After that, the aftermath of that was that. Or later on, when I have written on the borders of my capital, I don't know whether that's my only Punjabi piece. That we had the farmers movement going on, and that was a cause I felt connected to. I was reliving my childhood memories, my ancestral house, my ancestral land, and all that was going around it. So I felt a compelling gush to write it. I felt, if not now, I don't write it now. And that was also, again, first for my own self, then for the world. Every piece, it's never thought of that way or planned that way. It happens, and then I just let it flow.
So how is this thought about, let's say feminism, equal, standing for women, or bringing out the emotion and handling two men at home? Do you face a lot, of resistance? They feel, oh my God, how do I handle this woman? What goes on at home?
That is also there at times. I get to hear. I talk something, as I said, even I am flawed. I mean, I will say something to my son, which he will say, oh, somebody gave you a title, liberal lady. They should take it back. So, at times I will say things that my husband, I think a lot of credit goes to him, because he has throughout been very outspoken. And I can blame it on, if it is a blame, I can put it on somebody that, okay, this guy was very outspoken. And over the years, maybe I started becoming a bit like him, or maybe I got it from him. But it happens. We kind of, we keep each other grounded also, the three of us. By telling that, okay, you're flying too high and all of that. But then we have our own ways of pulling each other up also. There's a banter that goes in our house every day, every moment. That's how we three are. But then there are meaningful conversations. When children are growing up, you need to have all those conversations. When children are growing up, you need to change yourself also. You need to look inside also. And that's why I always say that parenting is, motherhood is very soul soothing. It is soul sucking also at the same time.
Oh yeah.
It is nerve-wracking. It is like to be on a minefield, but I still recommend it, because it makes you a better version of yourself, because there is a child watching you. So if that's what the outcome of it, I mean, that's it. But yes, I do say that, a lot of this thing that my husband, like, he's very outspoken. He was very outspoken. But then that one person, I think, who influenced a lot of who I am today has been throughout my mother, never mincing words, and giving me a fair approach. Even if she felt she could not raise a voice, she did not ever tell me that, no, this happens like that only, or women have to take it on. Never. And it is not just about women's lives. How she raised us to be independent minded, be it was something about religion also. I mean, I am a Sikh by birth. I went to a Sikh school. My connection with Gurbani is very, very close. But if I still, when I walk up the steps of a Gurdwara, at times I'm chanting Hanuman Chalisa. I mean, if I at some points wanted to start visiting a temple, she was the one who said, yes, you must. I mean, your faith is something your own, and you have the right to decide. If I was 16 when I visited Dargah Sharif, Ajmer Sharif, and I knew, that was how no one questioned that. No one, made us feel that my faith is and that's the best way to practice, and others are not. So I think a lot of that open-mindedness has come from a lot of things we were just observing. Nice. Not necessarily it has to be hammered down. Yeah. It has lots to do. In my early 40s or late 30s, after more than 2 decades, when I visited Ajmer Sharif again, and someone questioned that, I was very clear that this is my faith, and no one has the right to question that, because that's what I had grown up with, that you allow people to find their own way. I mean, why? Religion is what? Spirituality is what? It is a way to give us strength. If it is dividing us, or if it is tearing us apart, or if it is making us inward looking, then that's not something you need to just profess and hammer down to the next generation. So a lot came from how, early, she used to make me mug up poetries. I used to be a part of inter-house competitions. And I always love talking about this. I tasted blood that way very early, going up on stage and getting a high. And that credit goes to her, because she used to find out the best of poetries, make me mug up, when I did not understand the meaning also, the context also. But later on, how that worked positively was when I started understanding the meaning, I knew that lyrical ebb of and flow of poetry. All my speeches till 8th and 9th standard, my mother used to write.
Wow.
And I very proudly say that I used to speak out what she wrote for me. But those were my windows to feminism. I still cannot get over. I still have that vivid imagery of a speech that started with "Frailty, that name is woman," said Shakespeare in whatever context. It started with that. Then it went down, like it would go down to quoting Guru Nanak Dev Ji. So kyu manda akhiye, jit jamme rajan. Those were her ways of making me, exposing the best. And then I had the best teachers, I think. A teacher who goes beyond the call of curriculum and makes a poet come alive, shares her own stories, his own stories with you. I think that was, I was very blessed. The teachers who exposed me to Punjabi literature, who exposed me to Shiv Kumar Batalvi, Amrita Pritam, Paiveer Singh, Nanak Singh, that is whole literature, I grew up with. And my first window to feminism were those lines from Shiv Kumar Batalvi, Nari ape Narayan hai, har mathe di tiji akh hai, Nari tarti di kavita hai, kul pavik Nari de hath hai. Wow. When I didn't even know Shiv Kumar Batalvi was, at 6, teachers who influenced me, or my mother who said, at some point in life, you must read Luna. That's an epic piece of writing. I read it at 16, and I will tell you, Runa has very explicit, about human emotions, about physical intimacy, about man-woman relations. It talks about incest also. When I was in the middle of it, I realized, okay, maybe it's too early for me. We are that generation of women who had their own self-restriction.
Yeah,
I remember father's library, I picked up Khushwant Singh's Train to Pakistan when I was 15. And when it reached that excerpt where there was a scene that, talked about, I had an explicit scene, I shut it, I kept it back. Oh, no, I'm not, I don't know how many years later I picked it up. But I think that all went into, the kind of writing I'm doing today, like Khushwant Singh's Illustrated Weekly. That's the fodder I have grown up on. His editorials in Illustrated Weekly that I used to read. So a lot, I think every decade of life, you have experiences that, and we women are a sum total, not just a sum total of our roles. We are way beyond that also. Way beyond how we are observing other women dealing with situations, other women reacting to situations. So it's all like, it's way more than I think we need to have, we chat for hours and hours together. So before we reach any this thing.
Beautiful, I think. And from here, I want to ask you, so what have been your life lessons every decade? every decade you have a new trajectory, as I can say, a lot of new finding for your own self. So either you sum it up, you can tell me what are your biggest life lessons, or every decade, what did you experience differently?
I think one common life lesson that has run through is like, be true to your conscience, and be true to your own story, be true to what you're doing in any profession you are in any relation you are in your day-to-day way in which you are dealing with life. I think that has held true, and that has worked for me in every decade of my life. And when I look back, if you ask me, honestly, I would not want to change anything that I could have done differently, because now I feel everything contributed to, was leading me to somewhere. And maybe if something had happened the other way, I might not have be doing what I'm doing today. So this, I think one thing I have stuck to is that there is a higher power watching you. Just to yourself. That is the biggest life lesson. Beyond that, I don't think I'm well equipped to talk about any life lessons, because I'm still learning. I'm still a work in progress. I will always remain, So yes, find your own moorings and be true. And our choices have to be our own.
Yeah, so true.
World or looking at the world to be making our choices.
So, Jasmine, this podcast is about second act. And second act, the name itself is very powerful for me, at least. But I leave it to you how you want to decipher it. And I want to just ask an open question here. What is your second act?
This, I think the whole, what I'm doing right now is in more ways than one. My second act, or maybe the best act I'm having right now, the best, I'm having a ball. I mean, I think in any which ways I have, when I want to disconnect and go living life, go to attend to life, I can do that. I can make that choice. And yes, I do feel there is something else also waiting for me somewhere around the corner. I've started getting that feeling.
Nice.
I trusted my instinct. It's guided me. It's never betrayed me. I think we women have that. We have a gut instinct that guides us. No, this is not for me. This is for me. I have always followed that, and I think that comes from a self belief also. So. I can't put it in, like, I can't categorize that what is my second act or what is, as long as I'm rooted, I have something to fall back upon, and that something is my faith. That's something every morning, like when I wake up, if there is some days are good, some days are bad, but I know I have my something to meditate, to fall back upon. I need where all I find strength from. That awareness is all, I think, a part of this second phase of my life. This phase, I call it, and not that it has its own zeniths and it has its nadirs also. I'm in the deepest of wells also, but there is a way in which I know I can come out.
Beautiful. So now we have rapid fire questions, and that will tell us more about Jasmine, of course.
I suck at fires. I normally don't like,
We don't have to like everything in life. Let's put it this way. You've tried so many new things. This is another one. So Jasmine 20 years hence to Jasmine 20 years now.
20 years hence to Jasmine 20 years now. Okay. True to herself throughout.
Oh, beautiful. What motivates Jasmine?
Life.
See, you're doing very well.
Whatever it throws my way, everything I feel has a reason. It has happened.
How have you handled setbacks?
Setbacks, I think, are way forwards only. So every time there is a setback, we have had 2 months back also a very major setback. Somewhere that feeling comes that this has a purpose. This has a purpose, and that gives me the strength to come out of it. It could be any setback in my professional, space, in my personal space, in with somebody. Like my mother had a very bad health setback. And what I was reasoning out, sitting outside the ICU was, does this have a purpose? And I was getting answers. This has some purpose behind it, and we all just have to huddle around each other to get out of it. So setbacks, somewhere, I've never allowed them to hold me back. There are some things you can't avoid. They are destined also. I don't take setbacks like setbacks. I take them as the stepping stones to something further. And I swear by Michelle Album's quote that each ending is a beginning. It's just that at that time we don't realize.
Being a woman for you is?
Self-preserving. My own self first. And I say this now unapologetically.
Wow.
Into the space I am today, I have to be happy first to keep others happy. And I'm not apologetic about saying that.
And your next writing is going to be on?
The well of words has kind of dried down. So Yeah, it has, because there was life to attend to in the last couple of months. But as I said, when you said about setbacks, I'm not killing myself for that. This is a phase. I'm taking it the way it has come. And if not writing, there is something else waiting, maybe.
You never know.
And universe is sending me cues. It has always worked for me. So there is something definitely around the corner. Yes, I just have to grab it and hold it. So I really don't know. I really, really don't know.
Okay, so the last one, and you did so well. You said, "Oh my goodness, I can't do rapid fires. Look at what's coming out." The last one.
At the time I need to get over. I feel it's a young people's thing. They can think of, and I'm like, you make me talk and I'll talk endlessly, but I don't like this rapid. I mean, this is, but I'm loving it. Anyways,
yeah, I read such wonderful pieces and such wonderful thoughts. I mean, come on. I mean, this is really something that I will preserve. One thing that you want to tell the women of today.
Stand up for yourself. Nobody else is going to do it for you. Just stand up for yourself. And as I said earlier, we need to do this for the next generation of women also.
So Jasmine, thank you. This is just like a window to a very beautiful chat. I wanted to ask you so many more things, but I want everybody to hear us till the end. So I like to keep, the conversation short and crisp, so that, they take away the maximum from, people like you who have beautiful second acts, beautiful purpose in life, something that really keeps you going, keeps you resilient, keeps you looking forward. And like you said, there's always something behind what happens. So you never take setbacks. So many things that came out of this conversation. And I'm sure that, whoever will hear us will be inspired today. Thank you for doing the kind of work that you're doing, for writing what you're writing. And as you said, maybe something bigger is coming. So never say never, and keep going, my dear friend. And I will love to interact with you more and more and follow you all over. You're a famous person.
Thank you, Archana, for having me over. It was an absolute pleasure. It was cathartic too in many ways. Thank you so much.
Thank you.